High-tech, lowbrow, it's the 404. High-tech, lowbrow, and what's more, it's the 404.
Get it going. 3, 2. Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of the 404 Show on this Friday, March 13th, 2015. It's Friday the 13th. That's a very special holiday for me. And I'm joined by two very special people. John Falcone to my left. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Good to be back.
I know. We'll talk about how long it's been in just a second. And then, of course, Bridget Carey filling in for Aya today. How are you, Bridget?
Doing good.
So Friday the 13th, it's like, I love that day because everyone thinks it's scary, and it's not. It's just a regular day. And I think
so
that's
you
amazing.
and Taylor Swift loving the 13th.
Whoa! Why are we grouping me in with Taylor Swift?
She's got like a 13 tattoo. It's her
Yeah,
thing.
I thought it's her lucky number
Damn it!
for that same reason.
I can't even have one thing. Oh, man. All right. I'll deal with that in my own way later
So
on.
you're excited this year, I believe we had two, right? February
Yeah.
and March.
Right. Whenever it's...
As long as there's not a leap year.
it'll be the same days in a row. Yeah, which is pretty great. I got engaged on February 13th.
Nice.
Friday the 13th.
That's good.
Look, what can I say?
That's been working out great for you so far.
So far, so well. I have no complaints that I would talk about publicly. So, Mr. Falcone, you are the executive editor. You're basically in charge of all things CNET edit in New York here. Say it. Don't be ashamed.
Sure.
Yes.
You could say that.
Okay,
Yes.
good. I'm glad I did. I want to talk real quick. So I didn't even look it up.
CNET reviews.
CNET reviews, yeah.
well.
And, you pull a lot of weight in other categories.
Let's not take away from other people.
No, let's. So when was do you remember the last time you were on our show?
No.
Okay.
My question was going to be like, was Obama president?
No, that's definitely not the case. I'm looking it up with like a crappy little search right here. It's not even pulling up.
Yeah.
I think it was in maybe the hundreds or the 200s. I know.
That's possible, or I feel like...
It's insane.
I feel like
Just trying
it was
to find it.
it would have been like a Wilson era
Definitely.
situation.
Definitely. So we have a Wikia. You know what that is? You guys know what Wikia is? It's like
Is it Wikia or Wikia?
It depends on where you're from. So I'm just trying to do like a crappy little search here, and I'm going into the guests category, which is relatively fleshed out. And here you are.
Kudos to whoever is maintaining this.
Okay, wait.
And keeping that picture of me also from the era we're talking about.
It's amazing. It's like a stock photo of you juggling a bunch of all-in-one remotes, and it says you might have been on episode 58.
Wow.
Which
So I
is-
never got out of double digits.
You never got or 34. Were you on 2?
You were a pioneer.
Do you remember?
It's possible. Like Randall. Yeah, that's how long ago it
Yeah,
was.
this is all Randall Wilson era.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So either way, the last time you were on was 2008,
And
7 years ago.
So how you been since then?
What have you been doing? I didn't even know you still worked here.
crazy.
It's
yeah.
crazy. How about that?
I also wonder if I was on maybe one or two of the test ones that were never broadcast.
Oh, that's
like
certainly
Dudecast
possible. Yeah, the
episodes.
Dudecast. Wow. See,
The Dudecast.
Falcone's an OG. He knows all about the Dudecast. Do you know about the Dudecast?
I never heard of this.
So in our infancy, we were just this nascent trio of morons.
Dudes.
I mean, not a lot's changed, but that was the first idea for the name of our podcast. And at the time I don't even remember whose idea was it to just call it that, but that's what we sent to Mark Larkin, who was running CNET TV at the time.
Right.
And he's like, this is good. You just can't call it the Dudecast because that sucks.
Which I might question that decision, but okay.
In hindsight, maybe it was better than the 404, but we're not going to split hairs.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to SEO Dudecast right now and
Yeah.
see what comes up.
I feel like it might
Yeah.
still be worth
keep-
switching names.
Before we broadcast this, we'll cut this all out and
I'm
get
still
that
open
URL.
to it. I'm still open to it. All right, let's get into
So it's been a while,
Yeah.
but I'm glad to be back.
As am I. And
frankly,
are you upset? Like,
no, would come
like,
back. And I was never a big fan of being on video.
Yeah.
So audio only, sure.
All right. Glad to know your door's open to that.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Let's get into this week's stories. A lot of stuff happened.
Some stuff was announced.
Obviously, Monday. Was it Monday was the Apple event?
Yeah.
Man, it seems
amazingly.
like a lifetime ago.
I just the other night I was like, did that happen Monday?
How is that possible? Weeks go by so quick, yet this felt like it was ages ago. Massive Apple event, their spring preview. Okay, so let's go through this all the stuff. Everyone in the subreddit's like, oh, you guys have to talk about Apple stuff. Obviously, we're going to hit the watch first. So let's talk about the watch, the big story of the event.
Where do you begin?
I think you just begin by, I'll begin by saying I am legitimately underwhelmed with this thing.
And the corollary question there is with the Apple Watch or the whole idea of a smartwatch whatsoever?
I drank the Kool-Aid a little bit with the Pebble Watch because I still think that's probably the one to get because of the price and the specs and the battery life and stuff like that, and how it's just not this intrusive replacement for your phone watch, situation.
Yeah, so funny story. I don't think it was until 2 weeks ago that on CNET we even had a best smartwatches list because it has literally taken us up to this point to come up with a small list of watches we would even consider recommending.
Right.
And I believe right now they are the Pebble Steel.
Okay. Not even the time. Well, the time we don't have yet.
Right. They were just announced, so they can't be on a list.
Right. If they're just
certainly look promising.
Yeah.
But the Pebble Steel at $199, about to be upgraded. And the Withings Activité,
which is the analog looking watch.
Yes.
There's like some digital background stuff going on there.
Right. So it is communicating with your phone via Bluetooth for a couple of things, but it also lasts a year because it's not doing a lot of crazy.
It's a normal watch battery.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And it's $150.
Right. So beyond those two, is there anything else?
There's a few more on the list. I think those are the only two that are 4 stars.
Okay.
So you'd have to look it up. But if people ask me, they're the two I would bring up first.
Right.
I think the two weird things about the Apple Watch event were, one, I think it was more than 50% not the Apple Watch that they spent their time on.
It took a really long time to get to it.
Yeah, it was like more than an hour, I think.
Into the
event. Yeah.
Because there was nothing new besides what we saw at the last reveal.
Exactly.
That was the
changed.
other weird thing, is they really, except for finally the pricing and the hard release date details, very little new information to honestly kind of upsell you on why you would want to spend $350, $400, what's the other one, $600 up?
Yeah,
And the gold one is just a whole other...
Which is just another tragedy. And let's talk about that just for a second. It's the way I look at it, why even say you have a $10,000 watch? Why even say it? Now, is it a... I was talking to my... Well, all right, so I was talking to Vinny from Giant Bomb about it, and he's like, no, it sounds like it's just like Apple wanted to say, don't forget, we still know you're poor. Don't forget, we still realize.
I think for some people, it will turn them off. It has that, Apple looks like they're not your friend moment, you know. But then they want to play in that world. They want to play in that fashion world. Like, for example, some people love certain fashion brands. And I'm not a fashionista in that sense. I'm the one who's shopping in the clearance rack at Macy's. Yeah. But people see that designer dress on the runway. You're not going to spend the money on that, but you will buy that brand's lipstick.
Okay.
For $50
That's
overpriced.
An interesting way to look at it.
So it's that concept of, they're high quality, and you may not get that multiple $1,000 purse or dress that's one of a kind, but you'll buy the shoes.
You'll buy something else with that freaking logo on it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. What were you going to say?
A few things. She just encapsulated a lot of it right there. Yeah. Apple as a brand went from very aspirational, kind of in the old days, where the prices on the old Macs were kind of insane.
They were out of control.
Yeah. And post kind of starting with the iMac, which was much more kind of like a people's computer.
Sure. You're talking about the one with all the colors?
Yeah, the kind of first Steve Jobs' back product.
I had those in school.
Yeah, that was that was the quintessential college piece Mac for my.
It was kind of a great value at the time.
Yeah.
And then when the iPhone came out, that started. I think that was like $500 or $600 unsubsidized.
Right.
And then eventually came down to the same price as every other phone, basically. Right. Where, I mean, phones are weird now because the subsidies have sort of gone away and whatever else. But long story short is the iPhone basically costs the same as any other flagship phone.
Sure.
And as Ben Rubin pointed out in his piece, even like the MacBook Air started as like this crazy $2,500 aspirational, amazing laptop. And now it's like the meat and potatoes, low end, great value, $900 to $1,000 laptop, which, look, you can get a laptop for $400.
Yeah, but wouldn't you argue the Air is still overpriced? When you look at other items, I know nothing is as thin and as light, but the couple $100 you're paying in that premium, does that qualify it? I mean, I guess so.
I would not call it overpriced.
You would just call it expensive.
It's. I think it's delivering a lot of value at that price, especially considering what the competition is up there. Mm-hmm. That's like a separate question about the new MacBook, which I guess we could also talk about.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
But anyway, long story short, I feel like this is Apple kind of returning to that aspirational,
shooting for the stars.
Shooting for the stars. Yeah. And number two, why not try it at those prices first?
I guess. I mean, why is it $10,000? It's because it's solid gold?
I didn't even case is supposedly solid gold, not gold-plated.
But I didn't think that much gold cost $10,000.
I don't think it does, but you could look up the weight and see exactly what the, I guess, meltdown price of it would be.
I know, like, the price of gold has gone up, but...
Sure, but look, the other story we ran before the price was officially announced was, you know what, a $10,000 price on that isn't crazy if you look at the rest of the luxury watch market.
Of course, but those watches don't become obsolete in a year.
And that is the really $17,000 question.
That's the $17,000 kick in the crotch.
Because that's, I guess, if you get the nice band, you're up to $17,000. I would be shocked if they don't have a lot of jewel-encrusted bands that get that up to 40, 50, whatever.
There's going to be one from, like, Swarovski, whatever it is.
And that's there's no technology there. That's just literally jewelry.
Cosmetics,
at that point.
That's it.
Again, that's fine. I
heard the battery's replaceable, so you can get at least a couple years out of it.
Thankfully.
The other giant problem. Yeah.
Right.
If you get a Tag Heuer or a Breitling or whatever, I'm sure the battery lasts more like a year or so, not a day.
Or those watches just power themselves with automatic, movement.
Another great point.
So I don't know. I think going back to, stepping away from how absurd a $10,000 smartwatch is, which ultimately I do think they took more flack for than, sort of awe. Right, and I think for the most
because you don't
part,
feel like they're in touch with you, right?
Right, it felt like a massive sort of snobby, elitist kind of presentation, and they just sort of snuck it in there too.
I think
he kind of said it as he was, like inhaling. He was like, "And I'll have a $10,000 one too." It was sort of under the radar there.
Yeah, but to your point about is it Swarovski?
Yeah, I don't think anyone could pronounce it correctly.
I mean, for years we've seen. Here's a $10,000 iPhone case, right?
But that was never sold by Apple.
And I think Apple looked at it and be like, why are we in that market?
Why are we
letting this guy take the the extra $10,000 off the top of our product?
Why haven't we dipped an Apple TV in diamonds yet? What's that about?
I'm just saying.
No.
They can always lower the price. They can always walk away from a high-end watch.
Sure.
Why not? I'm almost surprised they didn't put it out as like special first edition only.
They'll only sell 100 of them anyway, right?
Yeah, and
you
the
never
other things,
know.
I guess
there are a lot of people out there who that's not a big deal.
Yeah, I guess Kanye West will buy 10 of them.
Yeah, there's the celebrity thing, and then there's
it'll be like a weird gift thing,
Well, also, allegedly the gold thing is very like China focused for that market.
Interesting. I don't know why.
It's the same people who are going to buy that Lamborghini phone, you know.
Right,
there's a market out there. People who are like, sure, why not? I'll just toss this aside in a year.
I guess. So stepping away from that part of the discussion, I like we said, there was nothing fundamentally different from the first Apple Watch focused press conference.
That's why they talked a lot about health.
Right. They talked about the whole health thing, which I don't know. I still have this weird aching feeling in the back of my head that you guys, I don't really necessarily look to you guys for health research. I just think a lot of this stuff is unproven. We're so flooded with fitness trackers and heartbeat monitors, and not, this. It's not like the Surgeon General comes out and is like, everyone in America should have this.
Sure.
They're not necessarily endorsed by any respectable health organization.
I don't know how well that health tracker heartbeat monitor is really going to work. And I had a bit of a experience with the Moto 360 this week.
Sure.
I took it for a hardcore workout over at Google's offices.
Okay.
And that gave me, by actually being with it in a workout, it gave me a little bit of a different insight into how the fitness world would like it to be more convenient than carrying your phone around. It depends on the apps that are made for it. For example, you're sitting there with boxing gloves on and you're punching a bag, and you want a watch maybe to just give you a little buzz when it's time that you did 2 minutes, you want another buzz for a break, buzz to go back, and then after you're done, you get all the stats. Even if they're not exact stats, you get a sense of how you've done overall in a progress way. The app site also, you can do that with like how many times you want to get a reminder of a routine. Quick, do 10 squats. Quick, do 10 this. And it buzzes to tell you to stop, to go again.
Sure.
That kind of thing is where people are going to innovate first.
Right. If it helps you get a more productive workout where you can chart your progress over a given amount of time.
Because we don't care about steps anymore.
I'm into that.
But like this is more like helping you out.
You say that, and that amazingly, as one of the most unhealthy people you'll ever meet in terms of diet and no exercise, I do still wear every day this clip-on Fitbit.
You do, man. I don't. Why?
Because it is
a part of me.
You're holding what now?
This is I think original, or one of the original Fitbits that you clip to your belt or whatever else.
So it's a pedometer.
It's a pedometer, and that's pretty much it.
Right.
And that's how I use it. But I guess you're supposed to try and get over 10,000 steps a day.
Okay.
My average, and I think I'd probably weigh like 15 or 20 more pounds if I didn't live in New York, and I don't own a car. Like I walk and take the train everywhere.
Right.
But average day for me seems to be about 7,700 steps.
Okay.
Whatever that means.
Right. So you just, and what do you do with that information? You're just like, okay, didn't do it again.
I feel really bad and lethargic on, like every once in a while there's like, I think what tomorrow is going to be like a rainy Saturday or something. You're like, no, I'm not going out there.
It'll just say like
turn on the
20.
TV or the PlayStation. And then like at the end of the day, it's like, 1,200 steps.
Oh, that's brutal.
But you don't have to charge it that often, do you?
This has a watch battery that lasts 6 to 12 months.
See,
and unlike your phone does this now, but even if I always have my phone with me, half the time it's like on the desk or whatever else.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't charged the Moto 360 that I used during that workout, so it's just sitting on my nightstand right now. I'm like, oh, I got to charge that.
The other kind of dirty secret about these, which depending upon your opinion isn't so bad, is very little of the information so far is really accurate from a medical standpoint.
Oh, yeah. When we were doing our like heart check,
that's a big deal.
We had to turn the watch, like, you know how the watch faces outside? We had to turn it inside in our wrist because where our pulse is stronger.
Right.
Because it was having a hard time
detecting it. Right. And I mean, so there's those issues.
I mean, that's why none of them, they always sort of have an asterisk and say like, for fun.
Right, exactly.
Not FDA approved.
Exactly. And that's what, there's this gigantic disclaimer on all this stuff.
That being said, even if this step counter, for instance, isn't accurate, I feel like if I'm always measuring against this one device, at least it's giving me on a spectrum
Right. The numbers may not be accurate, but
right.
the
But I
intent
feel like
is
if
there.
it says 5,000 versus 10,000,
Right.
that does mean I walked 50%
Sure.
as long this day as paired.
In theory, yes, if it's
theory.
working correctly. So you have that backdrop with the whole Apple Watch thing. I think that has very rapidly shifted away as the primary focus in the use cases of the Apple Watch. But let's talk about the watch itself. Now, if you're listening wherever you are, unless you're driving or walking, try this out. Pretend if you are wearing a regular watch or whatever watch you're wearing.
Which you both are, and I am not.
Okay, so now just like use whatever hand it's on, use the opposite hand, and just sort of like touch that face a lot. Okay, is that fun to you? Now look, how often do you touch the face of your watch? Almost never, unless you set it. Whenever you have to set it for twice a year for daylight savings, right? So how is that going to play into the experience?
It's another thing to check. It's another way to buzz you while you're, maybe you would have ignored your phone in your pocket, but it's so freaking big now you can't take it out of your pocket, so you have to now glance at your watch screen to know, oh, someone Facebook tagged me.
Now, does that sound like something you would want to do over and over again? And I guess no one can truly wrap their heads around what it will be like to own one until they have it on their wrist for 2-3 months already. So my hang up is that where I don't want to do this like constant handcuffed weird hand gesture crossover thing that you're going to have to be doing. Not to mention using a crown in the fashion that they would like you to do if you're not touching it seems mostly awful.
It seemed like one of the initial complaints was it wasn't as possibly intuitive as it was to use like the iPad or the iPhone, which one of the true things about those products was you really didn't have to teach anybody to use them. And you can see that a lot of times if you give like a 3-year-old an iPad, they're just like, oh, like this
is how the world works.
Around on
right.
it. And I still don't, it's weird how it has the crown and then also that giant button, and the button, is the button the home button or is it something else?
I don't know. Not to mention, okay, so we've digested that, but then you have this weird honeycomb layout where icons seem smaller than any sort of. It just seems like, how am I navigating through?
You really
that
need
with
to
the tip
have
of my
just like
finger?
3 or 4 apps. I don't see how you could not go crazy when you have 20 of those.
Right, because they show a stack of like 100 of them, and you're like.
But you use the crown to like zoom in and out of that, right?
Is that how that works?
Is that faster? Is that more efficient? Like, are you going to sit there going, "Hold on, I gotta find it"?
Yeah, I don't want to be that guy tinkering with my watch like some seventh grader.
Well, could it also just do like Siri, Google Maps?
Yeah. So maybe.
Yeah.
But again,
Which
if you want to be that guy,
hate all voice recognition stuff.
I still tinker on Android. Like I'm sitting there like trying to get to the home, then I have to get to the list of apps.
And that upsets you. That's annoying.
Well, it doesn't make me really encouraged to do that.
Right.
Yeah. So I just kind of let it sit on my wrist and have it push notify me anything.
Right. See, I that's where I would like it. I think I would like to know when I'm getting a call, especially if the phone's not on my person.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to get that text message. I'd like to get updates on maybe like scores of a hockey game or something. I would be okay with that. A vibration.
You would like to know what the hockey score is?
Yeah, why not?
Really?
Yeah, just like
that's
a vibration for a goal, or I don't know.
But I think notifications is probably the killer app on these watches, and
as long as the notifications are different than what you get on your phone already.
Yeah,
I guess. I mean, that's the question. But getting that fine tuned to where you want it is still a real challenge. I mean, Android Wear looked like it was heading in the right direction with that, but it's still, according to what Scott says when he uses it, like not quite where you want it to be. I don't know. I noticed on my phone, I actually became a lot happier when I turned off some of the notifications.
That's interesting.
And I really,
what?
Honestly, email.
Okay.
Where they were like all popping up on my screen. I was getting really anxious. If I just see the number ratcheting up and check it when I want to, that works better for me.
Okay.
So they got to make it customizable enough that it's not. I mean, somebody like you probably has to. Both you guys have to get pinged on Twitter like every 30 seconds.
It happens.
Think, right?
That you would want to keep that active.
Or you can just set it for only when someone tags me in a photo do I want to be
exactly. Like, but it'd have to be granular enough that you can, if it starts to get aggravating, if one of your posts takes off, that you can kind of temporarily disable it or something.
So think about this, okay? When we went from desktop to mobile, we made a lot of sacrifices, right? Say what you will, and I know it accounts for buttloads of traffic, but the mobile experience compared to the desktop experience is handicapped. It's an inferior experience, I think, as opposed to a mouse and keyboard.
It's different, and I
for
always
doing work. Yeah.
Well, again, when I want to. It's tough. If I'm reading something, sometimes mobile's still okay.
Right.
There are those times when, like, if it's a longer piece or something, I want to get out the laptop. Or
right.
the tablet.
What would you rather write a story on? What would you rather?
Write is totally
right.
Laptop.
Sending an email. Do a lot of things. Even
Even making
editing.
a Facebook post in some ways can be kind of tricky on a
right.
on a
Exactly. You do a lot of sacrificing and you adapt. Right.
But that's
So that's fine.
You consume on mobile, you create on desktop.
Exactly. So now here comes this third platform where it's like wrist. Okay, so it's wearing it, right? So you go from desktop to mobile, and now a more sort of, watered down fake version, not fake, but, granular version than what you're used to.
And to me, mobile to hypermobile.
Yeah, right. And now for me, that's my big sort of hurdle with it. That's my big hang up with it. Like, how am I going? And look, maybe they figure it out. Maybe they look, it looks like this is the way to do it. But that's what I'm the most cautious about.
One supposed reason for that is they're going back to a really tiny screen because the small mobile screen has actually grown in the past 6 years to 5.5 inches for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Communication changes with a small screen like that too. And what's going to happen is you're going to have all these preset responses to your friends. So you don't have to get out the phone and type something custom. You just simply go, yeah, I'm going to be there. And like 3 other choices are your automatic replies, or whatever you speak to your watch, will be dictated.
That's another big thing.
Just going to be LOL for everything.
Yeah, that's it. It'll be the easiest.
You coming tonight? LOL.
I guess that's a yes. Great. And I do want to cover the other things they announced, but I guess that's the biggest sort of glaring issues that I'm more curious about than anything else. So, all that stuff is coming very soon, so we'll see how it shakes out. Before we move on, staying with Apple stuff real quick, and then we'll get into the next story. The PowerBook, the computer that's just a bunch of batteries inside of it. Which when I first, it felt like a joke. It felt like an Onion story where they're like, "Hey, we've strapped, 1,900 batteries inside this poor, aluminium case.
Aluminium.
We've strapped so many batteries inside this PowerBook. It's practically nuclear." Like, that's essentially how I saw that play out. And look, the engineering wise, I think when you show me that it's just jam packed stuffed with batteries, I'm not that impressed. I don't know what it is.
What do you think your phone is, guy?
I get it. It's one big battery with like a screen. I get it. And that's what your iPad is too. It just looks funny. I don't know. A cross section of this thing is funny to me. That aside, it's got a really small motherboard. It's only 13 millimeters thick.
And butterfly keys.
Butterfly keys, which, all right, everyone I talk to that's used those keys says it's mostly awful. And like you're basically typing on a touch surface.
You have to relearn everything every time something like this comes out.
I actually think this is a very lame product. I don't care how gorgeous the screen is.
Touched it.
You're right. I haven't, but it's a $1,200 severely underpowered machine. I feel like some phones rival this computer.
It's more like a phone because it doesn't have any ports. Your phone has no ports.
It is not.
No ports.
Specs wise, it is not impressive at all.
So far as we know, you're correct. But a couple important things here. The only person who has actually touched this thing is Dan Ackerman. I guess it comes out April 10th, which is also the same day you can check out the watch in the store and pre-order it.
Right.
And also, P.S., the same day that the Galaxy S6 comes out.
Okay.
Nice counter-programming there.
Yeah, right.
One, the keyboard, it seems to be a concern to me because I really like the current MacBook Air, which is my work machine, and that of a lot of people around here. I'd say the keyboard is maybe the weakest thing about it. I don't love it, and that's kind of true of a lot of these super thin laptops. I mean, you lose travel distance on the keys.
Right. And it's a weird feel that you kind of have to get used to.
Right. And the thing that scares me about this one, almost nobody here will get this reference. It reminds me of the membrane keyboard on like the Atari 400. Okay. Which you guys all remember from 1976, right?
No, I don't. Yeah. But is it? But are you thinking more like that Surface keyboard? The other one. Yeah, the
lower end one.
Right.
Exactly, which does not appeal to me whatsoever, and it's only like a $20 difference to get the real one, which I'm sure is a lot better.
But we're talking about really, fine movement between the keys and the mechanism below it, and that turns me off.
So there's a keyboard. There's this Force Touch trackpad, which
jury's still out. It feels like.
Well, we have a version of that here now in the Pro.
Yeah.
And it is kind of interesting because it does give you this, you can do this double click with just depending how far you depress it.
Right.
And it kind of clicks back on you and does kind of an illusion of a double click.
So you've used that? What do you think? You've used it too, Bridget.
Yeah. I mean, just for a moment, I was kind of irritated. I needed to learn how to use it. It was unusual.
Even that one has more travel because the
keys.
Pro is a more normal size laptop, and this one is just kind of paper thin.
I think it's because it's muscle memory. It's the feeling. I'm sure even typing on a touch screen was different for all of us, but I don't know if I'm used to that. Right away, right off the bat.
Right.
I was like, oh, wait, how hard? There it is.
Don't you think someone...
I mean, to me, this is a perfect example of like...
We went too thin.
Well, you should at least go into the store and try this thing out. Right. And that's what is great about Apple now is their stores are everywhere. And then even if they're not, this will be in Best Buy and all, I'm sure.
I just hope someone at some point was like, hey, guys, do you think we made this too thin? Because
I can't wait for that dude to try and put it in his back pocket and bend it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It doesn't bend. I really I guarantee you that was a concern where they're like, okay, we may have gone too thin on this one because now it's just silly. Now it's like a knife, and that's stupid, right? 13 millimeters thick.
They're pushing that.
That's insane.
But not the thinnest laptop out there, apparently.
Right. Actually, Lenovo has right.
Yeah, it's probably got a better keyboard on it, huh? All right. So there you have it.
So the last issue on this is the processor, which is called underpowered.
Yeah.
Intel Core M, that is, in my opinion, the successor to the Atom, which was not a great processor. We've only tested one PC, one computer that had the Core M. That was the Yoga 3 Pro.
Okay.
And that didn't get up to 4 stars. It was 3.5, and it was kind of like, you could tell how heartbroken Ackerman was because he really wanted to love that thing. Because the design is super cool, super thin, and it did not do great in the benchmarks. Now, important caveat. Apple, unlike Lenovo, controls the operating system and the hardware. So
you think there's going to be a little finagling going on?
They at least have the expertise and opportunity to do that on this type of product, whereas Lenovo, I don't think really can quite get into Windows and fool around that.
Can I just say, like, even with the hardware, talking about the keys and all that stuff, I feel like you can get used to. I don't think we're ready for a world to be completely wireless yet, like they were kind of pushing for. Like, like everything could just be wireless and free, and maybe you need an adapter. No, you definitely need an adapter.
Whatever do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, we're just staring at a web of wires in front of us. It's not.
I'm not ready for that world.
Like, and that's what makes me think, okay, who the hell is this for? Like, who is this for?
They're trying to show that it's possible.
The same person who's pre-ordering the watch on the first day.
Yeah, but even the watch person, I have like more respect for than the MacBook person.
Look, this again is what they do. They create aspirational products, and they start them. This isn't, by the way, this is not insanely. It's $1,300 for the entry level one,
right?
But with I think 256 gigs of flash storage,
right?
Which I think is only $100 difference between this and the Air. So it's not of that same storage capacity.
Right.
So
I just think you're better off getting an Air. I mean, that's, to me, if someone's asking me, should I get a MacBook? No, get an Air.
And I think the Retina Pro is maybe the exact same price.
Yeah. I mean,
but twice as thick.
Twice as thick, but probably 10 times as powerful.
When you're a
Certainly
college
more powerful.
student and you just want something light in your backpack, you'll probably look at this a little closely and actually debate, well, do I have wireless headphones? Do I have all these wireless things? I mean, you don't need wireless headphones with this one, but you know what I mean? Do you have all the, like, do I really want to stream a lot or do I need the cords? And you might actually say, I'll just get an adapter.
Yeah, maybe, but you're going to make this thing choke out with like 3 browsers open. I'm telling you, I have big fears.
All
about
I'm saying on that is we're going to test it with exactly that. And we'll know within a month what the deal is on performance, which is good. The only last thing I would say on this, which I think is interesting, is there's also this rumor of later this year of the 12-inch iPad.
This was the 12-inch iPad, in my opinion.
I think seriously, it is.
Well,
There's just
except
a
this
shitload of
doesn't have a
batteries.
touchscreen. If that product does come out and they, surprise, surprise, happen to have a companion Surface-like keyboard for it, that then gets
We've split apart the MacBook.
Right.
And now offer them separately. Yeah, that's
aluminum keyboard, perfectly designed.
It's starting to get on my nerves. Yeah, I'm just sorry. That dude, I don't know. I think we might have to do a parody video. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Other news this week, if you're a gamer and you own a PS4 and you were looking forward to playing Uncharted 4, well, you're probably going to have to wait a year now instead of this holiday because it is officially delayed till next spring. And you and I talked about this in the office the other day. Should every video game, far out video game, should these developers and publishers just stop putting dates on games? I used to complain that games were announced too early, primarily because they would always have these super loose release dates attached to them. So now I'm saying, okay, announce your game, that's fine, but don't go and say holiday 2015 when you know very well that is a subject to change.
You become the beta tester if there's any bugs, if they haven't got it all set up right by the time they hit that date.
Yeah. I mean,
well, that's a great point.
Of course.
That has become kind of scandalous. It's like, sure, sometimes they hit those dates, but man, is that not a fun experience for the gamer?
You really don't have a choice anymore. You are going to get an unfinished game. That pretty much goes without saying, with the exception of a few titles these days. But my whole thing is, just stop saying this game is coming. Like, look at 8 of the major titles that are being released this year, okay? Every single one of them suffered at least a 3-month delay. When you look at, like, from now till June, and that's Battlefield, that's The Order, that's Bloodborne, that's Uncharted, that's Batman. They've all been delayed. Every single AAA title has been delayed. So what are we doing? This is a weird game we're playing. Where are we just supposed to now have this baked in, denial with the release date? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, why even have a date anymore? And just say, we'll let you know when we're gold, and we'll go from there.
I guess there's so much pressure from the console makers to be like, during our big event, we got to let people know why you should buy this console, so give us a date. Right,
so there's one answer, right, where it's like there are plenty of things attached to that, where, stock prices and you have to please members of boards and shareholders and all these different sort of variables that get baked into what it is to be a developer/publisher. So I don't know. I know there's no answer to this question. But I think we just stop doing that, stop making dates, and we can all kind of live a little more stress-free as people who put a lot of stock into when games are coming out.
How far in advance do we get some of these dates? Like over a year, though, sometimes.
Way over.
Yeah.
I'd say the most you get is maybe 18 months. I know...
Last Guardian, 10 years.
Oh, my God. That's a game that, forget it. At least they never had a date.
True,
right?
But that's an
that
example.
Makes it an easier pill to swallow. When you don't have a date, I mean, obviously, a game that's been in, development hell like that is an exception. But if they just came out last year and said, "Hey, here's gameplay footage of Uncharted. We don't know when it's going to come out, but it's coming, and it's coming," You just can't put it. I understand the fundamental difficulties of not attaching a date to a game, but this is getting ridiculous.
I mean, everything we just talked about is stuff that's coming soon. So it's really no different. It's exactly the same now in tech, in certainly for movies.
Sure.
Star Wars coming up.
Yeah.
And games and movies kind of go hand in hand. Weirdly, movies very, very rarely seem to get delayed. Like every once in a while it happens, but once they announce a date, they usually hit it.
I agree. Yes, that is very interesting. They even have dates for like movies in 2018.
Right. That's how
like
crazy that
the Marvel roadmap.
Right.
And they'll hit all those dates. So what is it? Is it because a movie is sort of this non-open-ended situation where it's not software, it's not something that has to be interacted with or installed?
So many games now have so many multiple choices to test every little possible thing you could do. You have a loss of control, you know.
And we've also been making...
There's lots of movies we see come out and go like, that could have been baked for another
maybe
3 to 6 months. Maybe
leave them in the oven for a couple more minutes. But here's the thing. We've been making movies for 100 years now. I'm not saying we've been making Avengers for 100 years, but it is something that has been streamlined and kind of put through its
streamlined with an extra 8,000 people working on each movie.
Well, why? I mean, you look at compared to what it used to be.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, sure. I'm sure the same amount of people worked on Casablanca.
Right.
Is not who worked on the
3 title cards and boom.
Right. It's over. Right. That was it, man. You would see like the key grip and the director in the same title card.
There you go. Done. Studio system.
But still, now it's just scaled, and it's become this well-oiled machine. And even these mega, ultra, over-the-top blockbusters seem to have a very rigid, architecture where they can pop them out and sort of do it. And like I said, maybe that's the non-open-endedness of the entire movie-making process. But for a game, you've got so much more intangible, so many more intangibles, and so many more things that are just, how many things get left out of a game that, how many promises go unfulfilled. It's tough.
They're happy to sell you that promise a couple months later as an add-on pack.
At the E3, that promise, DLC promises.
And speaking of movies.
Yeah. Speaking of movies, and this is more in the comic book realm, but nevertheless, are you a comic book fan?
Reformed.
How do you grow out of that? What is that?
Long story.
All right, fair enough. For another show, I know Bridget.
I'm one who appreciates it, but I haven't bought a lot of comics recently.
So DC in August of 2011 did this brand new initiative called the New 52, where they took 52 franchises and rebooted them. So you had Batman rebooted, Superman. Every popular and not so popular character, series, storyline got reset to issue 1,
and it made a lot of headlines with some of the choices they made for these characters. Like Thor is a woman,
right?
And,
a lot of origin stories.
Well, Thor's Marvel.
Oh wait, Thor's Marvel. Oh god,
you're confusing universe reboots
oh my god.
I'm gonna get so much hate mail now. I know that. I knew that.
Fanboy tears.
Okay, I knew that.
No, but the fact is, both Marvel and DC, every once in a while, they clear the decks and they go, "We're wiping out the 200 parallel universes we've created and starting over, and Thor's a woman, and Batman is a kid that grew up in Portugal.
Superman is making out with someone else,
Batman's an alien.
Isn't Superman making out with Wonder Woman?
Yeah, I'm looking at a photo of it right here. It's well,
These guys make such a cute couple.
They do. I just, I have no problem with hitting the reset button. The thing, though, is, you have this gigantic branding initiative that they did in 2011, and now only 4 years later, they're hitting the reset button on that. It's kind of a clear indication that this was not a good move. I mean, something happened where they just dropped the ball. I mean, I know...
Well.
So unlike Spider-Man and The Amazing Spider-Man, or Fantastic Four and the new Fantastic Four.
I mean, it's the same sort of thing, but, at least within the world of comics, I mean...
The Hulk movies too, kind of.
Right? Totally. And I guess, look, there's no rules. You do whatever you want. They are keeping the storylines of about 23 or so comics. So if you're still reading, there's a few new 52 storylines that happen to be fantastic. Like the new Batman's really good. A lot of people like the new Justice League. Those are all staying intact, but they are also going to do brand new titles, new universes and stuff like that.
I feel like there's always an alternate universe thing that comes up every so often, like, oh, how many times did Superman die,
right,
or Batman's did, or whatever the case is. But maybe they just want to keep things back to tradition.
It was all a dream.
Yeah, basically. Which is fine.
Which I'd say is fine. It's fine, I think, to say, like, what if, which in fact, I always used to like the DC Elseworlds thing, but they were like one-offs, basically, of like, what if Batman was in Victorian London going after Jack the Ripper? Or something?
Yeah.
What if Superman was from Russia?
I like that one a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just all red.
It was called Red Sun.
Red Sun.
S-O-N.
Yeah. Not bad.
Pretty good.
So if you're into DC,
but maybe they're just trying to have a straightforward old classic storyline for the new movies they want to come out with, so that way the kids can have the same kind of storyline in both. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, on a branding point of view, I think New 52 was a bad branding thing. I think most people saw that and were confused by it, especially newcomers to comics, people who weren't super familiar. That was confusing, I'm sure, because you did have, series that were in the 800s and 900s in terms of numbered issues, and then all of a sudden it's like New 52. You're like, wait, so is that 52 issues or is it 52 characters? What's going on? So I guess when the dust settled.
But Marvel's doing something, again, not too different, which is, what are they calling their...
The Infinity...
or it had two names, and one of them was like the 80s with the Secret Wars or something.
The Infinity Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the movie roadmap.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a whole different.
Yeah, I don't know. And the whole thing with DC's movie, I don't know. Am I crazy, or except for Batman and Superman, maybe Wonder Woman? I don't know. They don't have as good of a backbench on DC as maybe Marvel does.
I don't know, that Aquaman looked pretty hardcore.
I guess if you I always thought Aquaman was
Khal Drogo.
Yeah, right. Just thought he was such a
Conan / Aquaman.
Such a dork.
It is.
It's like, get out of the water, you dork. I don't know. Speaking of water, all you need to do is add water. You like that? To what's now legal powdered alcohol in the United States. Totally legal. Now, they tried to do this a couple years ago, but then it was taken off store shelves because there was no regulated dosage. They were putting basically like,
I mean, just looking
handles.
at the, I guess, package that you have up on the screen, I feel like that needs to be at the bodega across the street right next to the horny goat weed or something.
Yeah, with all those weird, strange vitamin pills that they offer in these convenient packs that are very affordable and yet ineffective.
It's great for camping.
But now the
just take your powdered alcohol.
So the Alcohol, Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau, so not the ATF. There's way too many letters there.
The ATTTB.
Yeah, the AT3B is how they refer to themselves. It's called Palcohol. And it's powdered alcohol that can be mixed with water to form liquid alcohol. So they basically brand it as like the Tang of alcohol, which is just
But we're
disgusting.
not marketing it to kids.
Yeah, exactly. And all
Or
these
the
cartoon
Nesquik,
characters seem to be attracting my 4-year-old. Yeah, so you mix it with 6 ounces of water.
Sorry. Also, looking at the package here, it's just a like Tony Montana style mound of white powder
which
on
looks
the package.
just like a bunch of cocaine. It's really is silly. You add 6 ounces of water and you get what's equal to 1 shot of liquor, whatever it is. So they're going to release all these flavors, and alcohol will be in stores this summer. There are fears, though, that consumers are going to snort the powder, obviously, because like we said, it just looks like a bunch of blow. Mix it with more alcohol to create like a Frankensteinian, powdered alcohol cocktail, or use it to spike non-alcoholic drinks.
How easy it is to go into a stadium.
That's it. All you got to do is bring a little vial of powder, which I guess they would confiscate upon entry anyway.
Well, it's easy to hide that in a wallet.
Like emergency packet.
Sure.
I guess that is a lot easier to stow somewhere.
Definitely.
I'll take that Minute Maid orange juice. Now
man,
it's like
we make it so.
Bam.
Why do we make it so easy to get wasted? Right? We make
America.
it way too easy for people to get wasted. Now it's just like, hey, here's $10. You can go buy me some of that alcohol powder. I don't know. I just don't know. Last night on Jeopardy, a super rare eclipse-worthy event occurred. Okay, I have some audio from the events last night. Listen to this.
Is figuratively. And bad news for Brad and Stephanie. This was not one of our greatest days. Both of you figuring in the red. And at the end of Double Jeopardy, that means you're not around to play in Final Jeopardy. So it's you all by yourself, Chris. I think you're going to win the game. It all depends how you handle this final.
No, she lost.
What?
No, I'm kidding.
No.
That would be amazing, right?
She bet 0. I hope.
I hope so. Oh my gosh.
Less than.
Or less than what we would give her negative. Yeah. So that's crazy. I think that did happen before, but only once before. And then I was talking with Bridget before we started recording. Apparently, on 2 separate occasions, all 3 of them finished in the red.
And then they must keep playing with all of them.
They must keep going.
So that do they, or it's just like Trebek tell some jokes at the
10 minutes of commercials. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Johnny, good night. Right? Isn't that crazy?
I feel like I remember. You know how the Oscar show always just drags on and on and lasts forever? I feel like one time in the 50s.
Which you were not around for.
Yes, I don't. I just read this somewhere.
Okay.
I think Jerry Lewis was hosting, which so it gets even better, right?
Sure, yeah.
They went like pretty short.
Right.
So they just like pulled up a bunch of people on stage and sang "There's no business like showing."
Oh, I hope there's video.
Maybe that's just an urban legend, but I want to believe that it's true.
Of course, I want to believe in that as well. So I watched that, and I'm just like, man, that should have been an idiocracy, where like Jeopardy goes away because nobody can win it anymore.
Yeah, I feel bad for those 2 people.
It's embarrassing. Do not get me wrong. Jeopardy is a hard show.
Oh yeah,
but. Come on, where's the screening process? No one should finish in red, let alone 2 out of 3 contestants. Right? Come on.
Well, look, full disclosure, I once took the test to be on Jeopardy and didn't even make the cut.
Okay.
So those 2 folks are smarter than I am.
Right. But that's not but they should therefore not finish in the red. You just got that itchy trigger finger? Like what happened up there, huh?
It could be like another reference you guys can get. A Cindy Brady just goes dead when she sees the camera on her. I don't know.
It's just, what the hell is that reference? What is that?
Brady Bunch, man.
Oh, Cindy Brady, huh?
Yeah,
unless it's a Snickers commercial. Right. I don't know what Brady Bunch is.
Yeah.
Okay.
You all remember the Thomas Edison version of the Great Train Robbery from 1898, right?
Oh, man. So that happened last night. Pretty funny stuff. All right. Time for our subreddit. John, you don't know about this, but we have you knew we had a subreddit, right?
I was going to say,
I
knew of its existence, right. I think.
So we've got a bunch of people who go out of their way and take time to submit questions and comments and whatnot to the subreddit, and we pick a few that we want to talk about. First thing I want to chat about, everyone who's written in regards to listening to podcasts 2 times the speed played back. I know. Savages.
Shaking my head here.
Right?
Amazing.
So the 3 of us are in agreement. Maybe it's a generational thing. I can't even wrap my head around doing that.
It's annoying.
Yeah. And I was saying, like, so does normal conversation just sound super slow to these people now? Like, how does that work? I guess if you're maybe listening to an audio book, I don't know.
Oh, I know what it is. Maybe young people who are cramming for tests who maybe watch, I don't know, lectures online. They kind of speed it up so they can, watch it faster. But as far as podcasts, it's for, enjoyment. It's also, in some cases, an art form in how they pause and wait for everything.
Right.
Delivery is everything in some cases.
So I thought about that, and then I said, okay, well, that stuff still translates. It's just obviously played back twice the speed. So your brain probably has to do a little bit of like time slow down, time traveling a little bit to compensate.
I mean, what 1.3x already sounds really bad and awkward to me.
So like everyone's on helium?
Twice.
Yeah.
Well, they do that modulation thing where
it doesn't make everyone sound like munchkins.
But I don't like it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, individual choice.
Yeah, it's a feature on all these
but
podcast
it
apps.
doesn't, to your point, like you're supposed to be enjoying it, I would
Right.
hope. And
seems
it
like
doesn't
you're not
sound
cramming it.
super enjoyable if you're just like power listening to these things.
Yeah, which I guess, look, podcasts are huge these days. If you listen to a bunch of shows, sometimes you got to do it. Flying Donkey 04 says, once you pass a certain threshold of subscribed podcasts, you have to bring in faster playback speed. There's simply not enough hours in the week to listen to a big library of shows. So, he says for something like NPR, like This American Life, listening back to 2 times the speed actually probably sounds normal when you think about NPR stuff. I'm kidding. Then you got to do it. The Stuff You Should Know crew also talks pretty slow. He says long podcasts get 1.5 to 2 times the treatment. So that's Joe Rogan, Jill Schlesinger with Jill on Money, and Hardcore History. And a lot of news commentary also gets the 1.5 times.
That is fear of missing out. I can go on knowing I didn't catch every podcast that week, you know, but if you are just like, I need to know what's happening in all of them, then you're just cramming and it's just this culture of like, I got to see everything on my feed before I go to bed. I have to scroll through everything.
Right.
Did I scroll through Twitter? Did I scroll through Instagram?
They're completionists. Mm-hmm. Shows that he does listen to for pure entertainment value get played at normal speed, which thankfully we're included in. So.
All right. Made the cut.
Sick. Kokesh says, though, I've listened to the 404 on about 65% speed, so it covers while my bike commute. Jeff sounded wiser at that speed. Thanks, bro. Appreciate that. Back to other regular comments.
I talk too fast. You can't put me on 2 times speed.
Right? I mean, especially you're trying to hit a time, too, in a lot of your programming.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of the day is when I'm walking by Bridget's desk and she's timing herself on the...
I'm like muttering to myself like a crazy person,
It's funny. Okay, here's some other stuff. Obi-Wan Shinobi. Jeff, do you use Justin's little black book of tech news? Justin found some pretty obscure articles. I do. I got a couple of those in the rundown today. From Frugal Rock, this is to Don Falcone.
Down at Frugal Rock.
Yeah, you like that? Yeah. They don't spend their money a lot there. Don Falcone, with offices in San Francisco and New York, how does CNET spread the workload?
So, very carefully. What's interesting to me, it's not just San Francisco, New York. It's San Francisco, New York, Louisville, Kentucky now.
Louisville.
London.
Right.
Sydney, Australia. Lots of
different time zones.
Go around. Yeah. So, there's beats with editors assigned to certain concentrations, but there's also a lot of switching off based on product availability, event locations, and all that sort of stuff. I mean, we started with, once upon a time, San Francisco was the mobile team, and New York was some terrible name like Home and Hardware.
Yeah, I remember. That was when I first got here.
And it still kind of breaks down along those lines, but it's much more catch as catch can now. So San Francisco still does a lot of phones, and they do car tech out there, and they do software and apps, which also is kind of a legacy from way back when download.com was closer, more integrated to us, which it really isn't anymore.
Right.
And New York is more TV, home audio, cameras, and that sort of thing. But we do phones here now in New York with Scott. We do wearables here with Scott and Dan.
It's way more interconnected now, right? Yeah.
And ideally, we just, honestly, because of the nature of the market, more than anything else, there's a lot more people doing a lot more stuff across the board.
For sure.
Including in those international offices. And down in Louisville, of course, is, again, mostly smart home and appliances, but there's already been, like, occasionally we'll go to a press conference here that's for that stuff and do some of the coverage here, and they'll pick up the rest. So,
okay. So there you go.
The point is everybody stays incredibly busy.
That is true. And then how hands-on is CBS? Do they stay out of the day-to-day operations or blink twice if you're being held against your will?
I'm not. You can't see this on the audio podcast, but I'm not blinking.
Yeah, he's totally detached here.
Yeah, I would say, except for one notable incident back in 2013 that you might be familiar with.
Sure.
And that's why that Best of CS thing was so weird, because it was out of the blue.
Right.
But otherwise, we're really independent. And what's cool, though, now is I think somebody else was mentioning just Dan and Tim and Scott and a lot of people and you guys too on CBSN and on CBS This Morning. It's a much better partnership now than ever before, I would say.
Definitely, and that answers the next question of, it's cool seeing it, or I guess it was more a comment about how it's cool to see us on CBSN and CBS proper. Another question, how do you think tech reporting and reviews have changed from when you first started doing it?
Oh, I'm interested in this one.
Yeah, right? Because hasn't been a great deal of time. It's been a while, but on the internet, it's been...
Well, I started here in 2003.
Lifetime.
Yeah.
So for you, it's been 12
And I'm not the
years.
longest person here either.
Yeah.
It's a lot more competition.
Quicker.
And the interesting thing, I think, is it's not even necessarily like us competing with other sites so much as we all know, people just on YouTube,
right,
or on Twitter, or on Tumblr, buying something or seeing something interesting and just reporting on it or
right,
doing a review. So you're literally competing with everybody now, which is, I think, the main thing that's changed, whereas back in the day it was kind of just CNET and not a lot of other people, and the blog started, and now it's kind of off to the races for
right.
everybody.
That's what happened. Like when I first got here, blogs were getting super popular, and I remember that's when Crave was first starting, and it was like, okay, not everything we do now is an article, drawn out review. We got to start doing these small little stories, and that made sense to me. But then once Twitter broke and everything happened, it was like, all right, now it's just we've got the brand and we've got the reputation, and everything just sort of comes together in this massive competitive,
Yeah, the other interesting thing is it's in a way a little crazy how I almost feel like there's fewer product categories now in a certain way. And part of the reason is these phones are a perfect example of, and this has also been well documented, is they kind of killed off 12 other,
right.
I don't need a camcorder if I have a phone. I don't need a camera if I have a phone. I don't need this if I have the phone.
It's true.
So it's in one way fewer, more high value devices for people, and that's why the shopping and product recommendation experience is a lot more intense and intricate than it was before.
Definitely, because it's like, look, if I make one mistake, a lot of things
I remember being here and doing PDAs, for instance,
wow,
and those Sony palm-powered Sony Cliés.
Oh man,
were the coolest product of the day. Had
That's
a
insane.
clamshell design. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Pretty wild.
And then finally, and I think we can ask this to both of my guests today. What is your first memory of the 404 podcast, and what do you think of it now? Now, that the last one is a loaded question, so don't worry about that. But what was your first memory of it? And let's start with Bridget.
Well, I mean, when I was coming on board.
And when did you first get here again?
2011.
Okay, so 2011.
Yeah, so when I was coming on board, I was watching it, and within my first couple of days, you had me on as a guest, and I sang "Reading Rainbow."
Oh my God, I remember that.
And so that also follows me on Google.
Oh, I'm sure. Sorry about that.
We get twice as high as with Bridget Carey.
Oh,
wow. Was the headline.
Ooh,
but yeah, no,
sorry.
no, I love it. It was a lot of fun. And so, gosh, it's funny how much things change over the years.
For sure.
Audio and then studio. But yeah, no, that was a good memory.
All right. Okay. So we were able to make a good first impression on Bridget. I'm not sure we were able to do the same thing with John, but what do you think? What was your first memory of it? Were you like, man, because people don't know. I used to work for you, right? And I feel like those were the days. And I feel like, what was your first impression when I was like, all right, I'm gonna start doing this. What do you think?
First impression was, I mean, it was so long ago. It was you and Randall and Wilson doing these test runs that we used to call the Dude Cast.
Right.
And that's just my first memory of it. And eventually it morphed into the 404, and then it ended up just being you and Justin for a long time, and then it was video, and then not video, and that's just, I always liked and preferred audio only for these, because the video, I get why we and other people do it, but it just seems, like that weird video for the excuse of it being video, basically.
Yeah, and I can't disagree.
Not that you can't do interesting things with that, but I would, when possible, prefer more of like a planned show on video where it's not the guy with headphones on huddled over a microphone.
Right. And, when we first went to video, whenever we did, we only had like a bird's eye thing sort of like peeking in. And it wasn't something we were hosting necessarily. It was just like an option.
First generation Howard Stern.
Yeah, basically. And that's immediately what I thought. I was like, oh, this is just like the E show on for Howard Stern. And then we got this set, and it sort of, it took us a very long time not to feel weird doing what we were doing. But anyway, that's
but per the, people listening to it at twice the speed, like I, after kind of walking away from them for a pretty long time, I feel like I'm listening to more podcasts than ever now, which is kind of this whole rebirth podcast thing. And it is, in my opinion, because the audio is just so much more accessible, and I can just leave it running if I'm making dinner or a lot of times right before I go to bed, and it's really enjoyable that way. And it's not that you're not concentrating on it, but that's what's cool about audio versus video, I think, is you can be doing other stuff and still really enjoying the podcast or the show. And
to just directly contradict that last statement you just said, we had pulled the show off of YouTube, obviously, because, no more video, no more YouTube. But for whatever reason, we've had a lot of requests to just upload our audio to YouTube, which I didn't really think we'd get a big response for, but we did.
That's interesting, and there's still a lot of stuff about YouTube I don't understand, and that whole thing about it being like the number one source for music and audio.
Yeah.
Because it's convenient for some people. They just get in the habit of streaming that way.
Right.
I know a lot of people who, when you want to look up something, you first go there, obviously, but then also they have playlists. So
it's, I get it, but I don't get it. So we I said, look, if we got a certain amount of people to send in or upvote, I would do it. Went well over that, so now I'm committed to figuring out a way to do it. It's not hard. It's just finding the right channel within CNET. So hopefully the show today.
Just throw like a title card up there.
Yeah, that it's really no harder than that. But I think the way we publish and how it sends stuff to YouTube has to be deconstructed a little bit. But it's not going to be hard. We are going to do it, and it might even start today. So we'll let everyone know on Twitter if today's show is in fact available on YouTube. So hopefully it is. That's going to do it for us. Guys, thanks so much for being here. This has been fantastic. Long time coming for John. Rock and roll. So where can people follow you on Twitter? Let's do it.
At Falcone JP.
There you go.
Show me the power, guys. I want lots of followers.
Let's
on this.
do
I gotta
it.
catch up with Bridget and Jeff here.
Maybe we should have put that at the top of the show then. But I know, right? And then follow Bridget on Twitter at Bridget Carey. Watch Update and enjoy all the stuff that John's behind the scenes with. Right? What's the biggest thing next, do you think?
It's going to be a good
couple of weeks.
April.
Right? Yeah, good
Let's
April.
put it that way.
Not just because of baby Bacalar. It's going to be
it's going to be a good April for a lot of things.
For a lot of things.
And Jeff may miss The Office, and we'll miss him while he's here. But I can't wait.
All right, rock and roll. That's going to do it for us. 866-404-CNET. That is the phone number. Please leave a voicemail, or you can play along in the subreddit, reddit.com/r/the404. That will do it for us. Until next time, I'm Jeff Bacalar.
I'm John Falcone.
And I'm Bridget Carey.
This has been the 404 Show, high tech, lowbrow. See you guys next week.